welcome to another episode of the Miles Offside podcast, where we talk a little bit of football and a whole lot of nonsense. My name is Oscar Puente, also known as Footy from Afar, and with me as always are my co-hosts, Mr. 100% Chuck Bailey and super producer Ian Stimson. We'll start things off as we always do with our famous segment, Rapid Fire News. Our top story, Liverpool drop points at home. Ha 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 ha. Next up, we have listener stuff. No questions. Great FPL. We did good one week, not great the other week. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Chuck's genuinely happy with that.
I'm down.
That's it. That was a good pod. Episode 98 in the books, gentlemen.
Well done, everyone.
Well done. Good show, guys. Good show, everyone. Rocket League's been fun, hasn't it? It's been good. I haven't had a chance to play with you guys that much recently, so yeah, that's been fun.
The 5th anniversary event was good. I got some cool tires and a nice skin for my car. It's good times.
We have to talk about football, don't we?
I guess we should.
We've only got 3 episodes to go. Come on.
What, till forever? Done?
Maybe.
Thank fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Thank God this little experiment is over.
Jesus
All we
Christ.
wanted was 100. I don't have a contract extension beyond that.
You're the Willian of podcasting.
I'm the Willie in the podcasting. That's right. I even have the afro going. All right. Well, we have a lot to talk about today, so let's just jump into it. Actually, as we like to do, we're bringing it back, I think, for the first time in the season plus.
Super Season Fighter Ultra.
Yep, exactly. That is with rapid fire news.
It won't be
Our
rapid.
top story.
It won't be rapid today. There's not a chance of it being rapid today.
As opposed to every other day.
First half of the podcast news.
Yeah, that's more like it. Yeah, go on.
Burr, 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 burr,
Slow it down.
Impending ominous organ sound.
Dun, 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 dun.
With a 4th in there, please, Ian. Thanks a lot.
Oh, fucking
Ian, do
hell.
we have the rights to the funerary march, or do we need to... Is that...
Plagal cadence.
All right, well, let's actually get into the rapid fire news. Our top story, we're starting off with the big story, obviously. Pep is officially leaving City next year, gentlemen. That's right. Pep Clotet, I don't know how to pronounce it, has left...
Brilliant.
What up for fucking that one up?
Clotet? How do you say it?
I don't know. Pep Clotet.
All right, well...
Pep Clotet.
Birmingham City Pep Clotet has left the club after Wednesday's 3-1 defeat by Swansea City. The Spaniard, 43, was set to leave the championship side at the end of the season, but said it was mutually agreed that he would step down immediately.
It's just like, I can't even be asked to get another 2-3 games in. I just want to leave the Midlands.
Don't even put up a pretense, Chuck. We don't need to cover this news story. It was just so as he could crowbar his little joke in. Oscar done a joke. That's what that was.
I mean, it's not even my joke. I stole it off someone on Twitter.
Pep
but,
leaves City, yeah.
Pep leaves City. Good headline. All right, let's get to the actual City headline, the one that is the big, genuinely big news story this week. Manchester City have had their 2-year ban from the Champions League or European competitions overturned on their appeal to the Court of Arbitration. They were cleared by the CAS of disguising equity funds as sponsorship contributions, although... that's not actually what happened. What happened is that the evidence was either inadmissible or too old. No one is saying they didn't do the thing. They just got off on a bunch of legal, technical...
Oh, they are. Man City Twitter is definitely saying that they are fully absolved of guilt. We're never guilty. And what are you even looking at? Look over there.
Just OJ the shit. Just own it. Just know you've done the issue. Just own it. Bring out a book. Here's how we cheated UEFA, and here's how you can do it too. Prey on their inadequacies, to dot the T's, cross the I's, and all that bollocks.
That's probably what, yeah.
Yeah, as long as it takes them 5 years to get through the evidence in the courts, then you're all set, because there's a really short statute of limitations, apparently. UEFA shot themselves in the face on that one.
They set, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Unbelievable, yeah. So, as you say, most of the evidence was either inadmissible or time-barred, they called it, which is... because UEFA have set their own rule that after 5 years, it all goes away.
Which is
Go quicker,
so
guys.
stupid.
Go quicker.
Move a bit quicker. Move a bit quicker. I wonder when the 5 years was up. Because, did it just mean that basically if City appealed, no matter what, they were good because of the time frame?
I think because weren't most of these things in 2014, so it was last year. So we should have known that this was, you know, all just too old anyway.
Jesus
Fucking hell.
Christ.
I can't decide if I'm angrier that they actually got off on legal technicality loophole bullshit, or that the decision was to reduce the fine. Not only did they get the ban lifted, They reduced the fine
It didn't get worse.
to
It got
10
better.
million, which I saw someone tweet that Sheikh Mansour makes like, I don't know, 500,000 an hour or some insane amount of money off of his wealth.
£115,000 a minute.
There you go. So if they got fined at 7 a.m., the fine would be paid off by like breakfast, basically.
In the course of a 90-minute football game, he has made back the 10 million fine.
He personally does, yeah, exactly. But Man City will make 15 million from the group stages of next year's Champions League. So before they even get into the knockouts, they'll have made that money back in UEFA's own competition. You couldn't write this fucking shit, honestly.
Well, I don't know, you couldn't write it. Pretty sure I predicted it.
You did, actually.
You did, actually, yeah.
Yeah, we got to give you credit.
Although you said they were just going to bribe and pay everyone off, which isn't even what they fucking did.
They've probably done.
Well,
Probably
maybe.
done
I don't
under
know.
the counter.
Maybe they bribed them to take a long time to process the evidence. Look, as a Chelsea fan, I'm really pissed off for two reasons.
Oh, fuck off. You've had your own go at UEFA recently, so...
Well, yeah, exactly. Everyone else gets off with a fucking slap on the wrist except Chelsea. I'm not denying that we did the things that we got in trouble for, obviously. But I complained about it at the time, that Madrid and Barca and PSG and Bayern had all gotten away with the same fucking thing and gotten no kind of penalty. We get a 2-window transfer ban. And then City comes in and it's not the same offenses. And I get that there's like legal inadmissible evidence and blah, blah, blah. But like, fuck, man, it's hard not to feel aggravated that Chelsea are the only fucking club that actually get any sort of real penalty that you can't pay off in 90 minutes compared to every other club. Like, and yes, the transfer ban worked out as a blessing in disguise, but that doesn't change the fact that it feels like we're getting targeted more than other clubs.
You still had a signing arrive in that window, which was Pulisic. And you could then...
We signed him in January and loaned him back. That's what we do.
Yeah, but he still arrived. And then you signed more players and you've got more players coming. So, come on now.
Well, also, Chelsea made an absolutely amateur hour mistake in that you didn't impede the investigation. You've got to impede the investigation wherever possible. Just shut
Barriers.
doors, shred documents.
Barriers.
You didn't impede the investigation. That's what you should have done.
Delete.
That's what you got to do, man. That's really what you got to do, apparently. Is just slow it down long enough that the courts are like, fuck it. This took too long. We're done with this.
Exactly.
It's over.
#admin. This
obviously does have massive implications within the league, and we'll talk a lot more about that during the fixtures segment, but there is officially a top 4 race on now. It's not 3 spots for 3 teams with Leicester City and United needing to make top 5. It is now 3 spots for 2 teams. So how are you guys feeling about that? It does add a little bit of spice with 3 games left to go, right?
Just to put in a correction there, 2 spots for 3 teams. 3 spots for 2 teams is probably quite beneficial, Oscar, in your case. And secondary correction, you say it is a race for the top 4. It is a stumble for the top 4 for all of these teams.
Sure, but it is nice to have something to sort of like... I mean, not as a Chelsea fan. I like that we had it in the fucking bag at 99%, but, you know, it is nice for the neutrals that there's like something exciting happening.
It is. It's always nice to have something to watch games for other than it being Watford, Newcastle or whatever fuck shit I watched the other week. I think the ramifications for this are probably a bit wider than that just in the short term for Man City, just from a footballing point of view, because they are going to be able to keep players now that probably weren't going to stay if they didn't have Champions League football.
I bet a lot of them have that in their contracts too.
Yeah, probably. They're going to keep Pep now if he wants to stay, and I presume he suddenly does. And now, does FFP even matter at all? It's been relaxed anyway because of coronavirus, hasn't it? So, and the fact that it looks like you can just get away with it if you just impede the investigation as long as possible. So, in the sort of shortish term for Man City, they're going to go out and spend some money now, some serious money on some defenders. Yeah. And I think they're going to put a lot of the rest of the league in trouble. I think Liverpool have got to look over their shoulder now because Man City are going to be back next year with a bang.
And if Chelsea get their shit together and buy some defenders instead of just buying attacking players over and over and over again, like Liverpool might be looking at 4th place next year. Easily. It's in the cards.
Yeah, I couldn't even make it through the sentence without laughing. Chelsea buying defenders.
Thanks. I do wonder what this does in terms of FFP, not just for City, but for other clubs as well. Like, are Chelsea just going to sell off the loan army? There's that weird loan rule coming in anyway, where you're not allowed to have, like, more than 5 players on loan or whatever. But, like, the whole fucking point of the loan army was that it was a loophole of sorts, or a fairly constructed and intelligent system, if you ask me, for getting around FFP, because you generate revenue by investing in 1 million young players, loaning them out, and then selling the good ones, like they have been doing for years. But like now, is this going to be a one-off thing because of the whole like 5 years window where it's like, you got away with it, lucky you, but we're still going to continue to pursue this as a thing in the future? Or does every club look at this and is like, fuck FFP, this is a joke, we're going to do whatever we want?
Well, I'd love to think it was a one-off thing, except that PSG did exactly the same thing, just got a time-barred sort of thing, go for it. Milan also got the same thing, got off on sort of technicalities. FFP is such a weird one because it's got its good sides and its bad sides. It was brought in because even other than the absolute top European clubs, no other club was profitable, you know, other than your sort of Man Uniteds, and I mean that, like, other than your Man Uniteds in this country, there was not many clubs that were profitable, even though other clubs were getting into the Champions League all the time. But it also was flawed in that by doing that thing of you can't spend, you know, more than your turnover sort of thing, it means that you're keeping the status quo exactly as it is.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You could never have. Let's be ridiculous and look at Peterborough. So, like, we're not a well-supported club. Now, we're lucky in that we seem to have a good scouting network and we get players from non-league and we sell them on for good money. But apart from that, if we had a wealthy benefactor come in who wanted to make Peterborough into something, if you were strictly keeping to FFP, you wouldn't be able to do that because Peterborough get 6,000 people through the door. So
right, exactly.
They'd never be able to spend any proper money. So, I mean, that's a sort of ridiculous example, but it's got its good and its bad side. But its good side being that top European clubs have become profitable now. Like, that it's really improved things on the books. It's really improved things. So, it's such swings and roundabouts. I've heard various things, people saying it's completely dead in the water, and other people saying, you know, well, this is just what's been going on with PSG and Milan and stuff for ages anyway. So, I don't know.
I do wonder how this would affect, like, for a much, much more tangible current example, the Newcastle deal that has been in the works for forever. Like, if I'm an oil baron buying a team and FFP looks like it's much weaker now, if not completely thrown out, like, I'm like, oh, this is my chance. I can take Newcastle and make them a PSG, make them a Chelsea, make them a Man City. Like, all these teams that in the last 15 years have come up that weren't like, Newcastle has more history than Chelsea did or City did, for example, right? Like, so it's not unfeasible that they could be the next one of those, but FFP was, I think, part of the stumbling block there, or part of keeping that from happening. Because, like, when they first announced FFP on the PR version of it, or the explicit thing of it, was to help small clubs from going out of business and prevent them from making bad decisions. Like, that's what they said it was. But in reality, it was, like you said, Ian, to make the status quo, to make it so that there can't be a new PSG. There can't be a new Chelsea. There can't be a new Man City. It's like, these are the teams that are big now, and they are the only teams that can stay big, because the way you go from a Chelsea or a Newcastle or, you know, even a Palace, Chuck, at some point down the line, you never know. They're a London club, right? So, like, they have good real estate.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Chuck's dream is that Selhurst Park just gets sold off to developers.
I've been trying to build a new. I just want Sainsbury's out. I just don't want the fact that we can't develop the stadium because we have a supermarket in one of the stands.
Is that true? Oh, fantastic!
Yeah, and they own the car park, so it's like we have to get it.
They own the car park. That's so funny.
Oh, yeah, man.
I didn't know that. That's fantastic. Oh, sorry, Chuck. Shit on your.
Good vibes!
All right, well, let's move on then. I think that's enough about FFP and the depressing state of, you know, UEFA and CAS and all that. And let's move on to a story.
Fucking forged payments. Yeah. Nailed it.
All right. This is a story from The Athletic. So, although the last 92 fixtures of the Premier League campaign had to take place behind closed doors, at least all of them were shown on live TV. However, The Athletic has learned that this was a one-off move in light of the pandemic, and that the Premier League will go back to its normal UK broadcast model next season, even though top-flight stadiums are expected to remain at least partially shut. So how are you guys feeling about that?
Money talks. We'll see what happens when we get to that point and people can't get in the stadium and the clubs need money and they want to broadcast more stuff. I think it's wait and see on that.
It does seem like a very blinkered decision, doesn't it? Because, yeah, like you say, there's money to be made, and the avenues to make money are brought down by not having match day revenue. So it does seem a bit odd, that one.
Sky driving up the price? Because they have everything anyway, don't they?
The vast majority, yeah.
Like you said before, they have all of the network and the systems and everything in place. So everyone piggybacks off them if they want anything. So if they say no, nothing, then the other networks obviously have to up their prices a bit, and it's kind of the same as the FFP side of it. That way they try to keep a bit of the status quo, and at least it's under their control. Should then the 3:00 games start to get shown on TV and stuff?
Well, and imagine like the Athletic piece talked about this a little bit. Like you're a season ticket holder who doesn't feel particularly safe or confident, and so you sell your season ticket. You give up your seat for next season because the stadiums are going to be closed anyway, and the whole thing is going on, and you have this TV side of it where you can actually still watch the games, and then now all of a sudden they're going into next season saying that like you won't be able to. I would be fucking livid, and there's quite a few people who did that exact same thing. Like when they announced that that parts of next season those stadiums were probably going to be closed anyway, I think a lot of people were like, well, between that and like just the safety issue, I'm just going to sell my tickets.
Well, I don't think I've seen anything that any clubs have put in any season tickets up for sale yet. Apart from probably Newcastle, because Mike Ashley's a scumbag. But most of the clubs were just offering, well, you could either get a refund for the rest of the season ticket, or you could choose to donate the money through various things, either charity, academy, stadium staff, those kind of things. But I didn't think anyone was selling the season tickets for next year yet, because it would be ridiculous. Like, you don't even know when the season's going to start. It's July, and tons of clubs haven't said like what their kit would be for next year. I know Chelsea have changed theirs, and there's a few other clubs that have kind of put some stuff out there about what they're wearing, but there's no changes of sponsors or anything like that yet. So
it's like the old proverb, though, isn't it, of the tree falling in the forest if there's no one around to hear it. Who's gonna witness these results? How do we know? How do we know that they're going to happen? No one's going to be watching them on TV. No one's going to be watching them in stands. Are we trusting journalists? Are we trusting the mainstream media? Really?
Well, we'll be watching them on TV. Like America still has our TV.
Oh yeah, America,
right?
America. Good. Yeah,
I'll fill you guys in. Don't worry.
You let us know on the pod. That'd be lovely.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you'll get your news from me.
We always do.
Big change for you guys watching every match anyway, right?
Well, I've enjoyed it. That's the thing. I've really enjoyed it. And while I was slagging off the fact that I had to watch Watford Newcastle the other day, I had nothing else to do, so I was watching Watford Newcastle.
Better than staring at the wall, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The fuck shit derby, as you called it earlier.
Let's move on then. We have our next story. Jurgen Klopp sent Wycombe striker Akinfenwa a special message. Did you guys see this?
Love it.
On WhatsApp.
Bio Akinfenwa, the beast.
We stand. I'm assuming we stand. We've never actually explicitly talked about this, but right? Akinfenwa?
Oh yeah,
he's wicked.
Yeah, great.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
Great dude. I love him. All his social media stuff. I'm like, you know what? Good for you, man. Like, be yourself. Fuck what everyone else thinks. Like, you do your shit and do it true to your, do it for reals, And I love that he was like, yo, Jurgen Klopp, hit me up on the WhatsApp, son. And then a few hours later, he had a video of him watching a message from Jurgen Klopp being like, it's my dude, Jurgen Klopp, what's up?
Yeah, about 1:30 in the morning on what looks like near to a high street, still wearing his Wickham shirt.
Oh,
what
yeah.
a guy.
Lad.
He was always good value when I was working on Soccer AM, because you could just, if you were in need of a feature, you could just phone him up and go, can we get you a video of you lifting something heavy? Yeah. And then just bench press one of the crew or something. It was just great value.
Yeah, there's a lot of racial issues around pace and power and whatnot, but he's just straight up power. There's no question there about is it because he's black? It's just because the dude is a fucking unit. Jesus Christ.
And he calls himself the Beast.
Yeah.
He wears t-shirts.
He's amazing.
Yeah, top man.
So congrats to Wickham. Wickham or Wycombe?
Wickham.
I want you to say Wycombe.
But I want
all
Wycombe.
the time.
I want
It's
next
so
year
good.
we have Wycombe versus Norwich. So
We do, yeah.
Shout out to them for being promoted, even though they were basically 23rd out of rank for pretty much most of the attacking stats. And that was in League One.
Yeah.
And the 24th team, I believe, was Bury. So
Yeah. We might have to change Burnley of the week to Wycombe of the week. Just oh, man.
Yeah.
All right, well, from the funny stuff to a couple of more serious stories, but things that should be noted. First, our deepest condolences go out to Serge Aurier and his family. As I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard, his younger brother was shot dead outside of a nightclub in Toulouse, and the suspected killer has escaped the scene. There's a manhunt for him, all that sort of stuff. So that is pretty upsetting. Anything to add in there other than our condolences?
No, it's pretty horrible. I mean, the only hope is that they'll catch the person, because it was outside a nightclub in the wee hours of the morning. There were people around, so the hope is that they'll be able to catch whoever did it. But yeah, awful, and you would assume that we're not going to see Serge for the rest of the season, I imagine. But yeah, horrible. Pretty
much. And then the other sort of more serious thing. We've talked about this a bunch, so there's no need to really make a lot of comments. I don't think, unless you chaps want to chime in there, but as responsible people who are trying to get behind the whole, like, BLM and black rights and all that sort of stuff movement, we should comment on the fact that Zaha and McGoldrick both received absolutely disgusting messages on social media this week. It is nice to see that the clubs came out, both the clubs of the players and the clubs of the fans that sent the stuff, with like the strongest possible condemnation. Fucking garbage. I don't know if you guys saw what was actually sent to McGoldrick, but it was pretty disgusting. And even more so, the stuff that was sent to Zaha, which was like not a particularly thinly veiled threat of lynching, given the history of those images in the US. And it was a fucking 12-year-old, which is like...
Yeah, I was going to say, which one was the 12-year-old?
Zaha was the 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Right.
I haven't heard more about the McGoldrick one.
I don't think they found who it is yet for McGoldrick.
The Zaha one, because obviously it's, Palace related and stuff, and it's like people saying that he's a little snitch and stuff for putting that stuff out there and getting a 12-year-old arrested. Like, fuck that. This is exactly the point of what needs to be addressed and shouted out in the open. Ian Wright posted stuff recently as well. It was the same situation. Like, why should people keep this quiet? It's the whole fucking point of what's going on now, about saying, no, look, this is here, this happens all the fucking time. And there's people that can go, oh no, you got to arrest the parents. No, just fucking punish the kids.
Well, and absolutely, the parents too, though, like both.
You can't get away with it. You absolutely can't. It's disgusting, and it's not something that's implicit, and it's taught racism. It's taught this inferiority kind of or superiority complex. That white people have, and wanting to put black people down and using these racial images. Like, who the fuck are you to think just because someone is a public figure that you can send this to them and that they should just stay silent for it? Absolutely fuck off. The replies from people on Twitter, as you can imagine, as with all of the Black Lives Matter posts by the clubs, is absolutely disgusting. The fact they're saying, no, this is fine, he should have kept quiet. Fuck that. Speak out about it. And yes, 100%, we should support these people doing that.
Absolutely. And I think it's important. One of the comments that I saw, I don't know if it was Ian Wright or another black player or who it was, I completely forgot who it was, but someone was like, the sooner we can move on from thinking that this is an extraordinary event, as opposed to something that literally just happens every day to not only famous people, but like people of color on social media of all type. Like, I've gotten hateful messages with like slurs and stuff. Mop listeners have been really nice ever since I've kind of just been doing the Mop thing on Twitter. But certainly back when I was still writing and I had like a lot of readers on Chelsea Index, I would get like vile shit from like people I've never met at all in my DMs, or just actual comments on the page, on the posts, on the articles, all that sort of stuff. So like, obviously I'm nowhere near to the level of Zaha. Like, that doesn't need to be particularly, like, that's really obvious, right? But like, it is an everyday thing, and it is just a thing that happens to every black person or brown person. The same way I'm sure like just getting unsolicited, disgusting dick pics and like vile messages is something that just happens to like every single woman. And I think that's part of why I wanted to include it in the rundown today, even though we've talked about all the racist shit so much, is because I do, as a person of color, want to drive home the idea that, like, there's a story about this every week, whether we choose to comment on it or not. Like, this is a persistent, perpetual thing and not extraordinary in any way whatsoever. And that's sad, but I think that as a society, the sooner we can, like, so I guess what I'm trying to say is part of the problem has been, at least on my own, anecdotally, like in my own life, I haven't done enough to like rock the boat and be like, hey, look, this shit is happening and we need to like talk about it. Because like if I get a vile message from a person, why am I going to go around and tell like all my friends? It's just going to upset them. It's a thing that I've been dealing with. So it's not even like you sort of develop thick skin, right? And I'm sure the players have it even more so, but it's still like really upsetting. But it's a thing that you sort of keep to yourself because you don't want to be that guy who's always talking about this or who's always, you know, playing the race card, as they would say here, right? But like, fuck that. I'm done with that shit. I think black players and black people are done with that shit. Brown people are done with that shit. Like, everybody's, you know what? Fuck this. I'm not going to keep quiet about this. And so, yeah, that's why I wanted to throw it in there this week.
See, I don't know if it's a direct result of the Black Lives Matter movement sort of gaining proper momentum lately. But like you say, these players coming out and posting these messages, which, as you say, they must get every day. But what's important is that, like me, average Joe white bloke, doesn't necessarily know that that is happening all the time. Like, it's very easy for me to go through life and not think about that sort of thing unless it's presented to me. So the fact that black players are feeling more able to come out and post that stuff, hopefully being able to ignore the ridiculous replies, which are always from anonymous wankers, it has to happen just to raise the awareness level of people like me who don't have to deal with that sort of stuff every day.
I am curious. The last, I would say, like year or so, there has been an increasing focus on this as a social issue. I think we just got to a point in like the world that everyone was like, okay, I think it's time to like actually talk about this and do something about it. Before all of these stories and all of this stuff started coming out, I'm curious to hear how you guys, as white men, like, to what extent did you realize that this was a thing? Like, I know that girls get unsolicited dick pics and like vile shit, even though I'm not a girl and even though it's not particularly the conversation happening on a societal level right now. I'm still aware of that, and I'm sure it's worse than I realize on a daily basis, but like, I know that's a thing. So I'm curious, and this isn't like to put you guys on the spot to be like, how could you not have known this? Because you're not people of color, so of course you do. I'm not going to expect you to have known this. But to what extent were you guys, you specifically, aware of this as like a thing? Did you know how bad it was? Like, everyone knows that there's racism, but did you realize that it was this much? I'm curious.
I think what happens is kind of everyone you experience is maybe similar to yourself and kind of what your story was, and that people don't talk up about it because it's just maybe people of colour did just develop a thick skin and just have to brush it off and want to kind of, you know, like when you get, it's completely different, but when you get kind of hate and abuse and whatever and just people telling you your shit or those kind of things, obviously on a different level to skin colour, you kind of brush those away to push forward in whatever your goal is or whatever you want to achieve, just as a kind of way to like shut fucking people up. Now, if you take that abuse to the next level, which is the kind of racist, sexist, discriminatory, any kind of form like that maybe for a lot of people it was kind of the same thing, and maybe that's why people didn't speak about it. But you know, as Ian said, you don't really experience it because unless someone tells you or it's open and out, and it's always more portrayed in the media when it's somewhere else, which is why everyone over here says, oh, the situation in America is really bad, because they'll show it. You know, in a microcosm, if you look at the coronavirus situation, when it was in Italy and there were people in the hallways of hospitals and they had like these makeshift bubble ventilators on, the news were coming up and saying, be warned, there are graphic images coming up. And they were showing live images and stuff like that from inside the hospitals in Italy when Italy was at their peak. Our peak was way, way worse than that, but they would never show that situation because they don't want people to feel like, they want people to distance themselves from everything. And I think so that kind of attitude is probably what's been applied to the racism situation in this country, that to keep it distanced from people on a national level and even on an ethnic level, so that white people don't think that it's happening. And now that it has to be addressed, and it comes from all kinds of things. Just because the media isn't covering it doesn't mean that the protests aren't happening. Doesn't mean those kind of things. And it's about having those difficult conversations with people, really difficult, uncomfortable. Be that, for me, receiving comments and stories from people that are like black people, or having those discussions with family members or close friends, and trying to show them, like, you know, when they say things like, oh, white lives matter and all lives matter as well, and challenging people and making it more anti-racist, exactly like Ian said, even though I grew up in South London, I've lived in parts of London that are predominantly, like, walking around, you see a hell of a lot more black people in those areas. And even then, like, I didn't experience any situations like that or really hear much or see much racism happening on the streets. But I'm open and want to acknowledge that, yes, it does happen. And I think people probably hid it so that they could carry on, I guess. It's hard to kind of contextualize it and words.
I think for me, it was like, don't talk about it because you don't want to be the one that, like, the squeaky wheel, or get people to think that, like, oh, you're just playing the victim, or because no one else was talking about it, you didn't want to be the one person kind of harping on that point. And then, at least for me, there was always a fear of, like, are white people actually going to believe me? Do they think that I'm playing it up? Do they think that I'm, you know, trying to seek attention for myself as opposed to the issue? Or seeking pity. I don't say this to you guys to put you on the spot, or even to have you guys be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that happened to you. That's so sad. Because, like, fuck it, whatever. That's in the past. I'm just trying to have, like, an actual conversation, and I didn't at all realize we were going to go here today. I was like, oh, we're going to talk about the mop derby and Chelsea losing, but, like, this just kind of naturally led to this conversation.
No, I think it is. If you absolutely sort of have to lay it out, because, I mean, I live up in Peterborough, so not South London, so a predominantly white area. I just have never had to address it in my thoughts. That I have never been abused on social media. I've never not got an interview because of my name or my ethnicity or anything. You know what I mean? Things like that I have never had to think about because of the area I live and who I'm around all the time. I've never had to think about that. Now, I've always worked in London, so I've, you know, had more of the experience of Chuck has in my working life. But this sort of thing forces me to think about it. And that can only be a good thing because I haven't been forced to think about it in the past. That I fully admit that. And I consider myself a fairly sort of liberal, woke sort of bloke, you know, and I still know that I haven't had to address this, you know, in my past life sort of thing. So it can only be a good thing that I have to think about this sort of thing all the time. I had a genuine sort of moment a couple of episodes ago. I described Adama Traore as a tank, and after like a couple of podcasts started talking about how they address black players, and I sort of had a moment where I thought, shit, I did that, and I'm pretty convinced that I would have described a white player the same way.
Oh, yeah, he is a tank. Like, you're not
He's
wrong.
a tank.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. The one to me that always jumps out is Paul Pogba.
Yeah.
Because he's not fucking strong. He gets bullied off the ball so easily. He is a player who is successful for his skill, not his physical attributes, right? Like, it's because of his passing, it's because of his shooting, it's because of his finesse. But because he's a black player, every fucking match, I guarantee they'll be like, oh, he's so fast, oh, he's so strong, he can't get blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, my dude gets bullied off the ball so fucking easy. Like, what are you talking about? So that's definitely a thing, but I wouldn't worry about the beefy boy.
No, but all I'm saying is, you know, it made me think about something because of the context of the situation we're in at the minute that I wouldn't have thought about before. And that can only be a good thing. Even if I think about it and go, oh, I think I was okay there. The fact I'm even thinking about it is better than it was before.
Yeah, and it is kind of that next level that you do start to notice. And I think it's right. It's something they joked about on the league, Oscar, didn't they, with regards to NFL players and how the commentators describe them.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the white players are predominantly described as being intelligent players or can pick out a pass or like that kind of thing. And then the black players are more, it's about the physical prowess. You know, it's about, oh, he's so quick. Oh, he's so fast. Oh, he's so strong. And then, you know, they say the Mexican, like Latino players are like firecrackers, like they're energetic. And it's those implicit things that, yeah, when you think about it, looking back, and I agree that you think, oh, okay, well, maybe that's also something that is part of it and we need to address. You know, Jack Grealish looks to dive for a ball, or he's playing intelligent there. Wilfried Zaha gets the contact and goes down. Oh well, he's looking for a foul, like he's diving. It's just those implicit little things that you're like, for fuck's sake, actually.
And it does have much, much bigger effects on football as a whole than just the commentary, because because it's so pervasive in the minds of scouts, in the minds of the entire culture. When a scout goes out to look for players, they don't notice the skillful finesse black players. They notice the fast and strong black players because that's what they're expecting a black player to do. And likewise for white dudes, they're looking for the tricksy, good passing white dude. They're not looking for an absolute fucking unit, a beefy boy. Alexander Sorloth is very much an outlier. Most white dudes are smaller than black players. And that's not because white people are smaller than black people inherently. It's because the types of players that get contracts, that get opportunities, are pre-selected for certain characteristics. And so, it is a big problem. But anyway, that's more than enough serious conversation. That is not the type of podcast we usually are. So let's move on to the actual fixtures. How about that?
Just before we do, actually, I would say one thing, and that this is mainly because I imagine you've got no reason to be a historical England fan, but Jack Charlton died this week. And he was a member of the 1966 World Cup squad and managed Ireland in Italia 90 and absolutely turned Ireland around. And I've heard some really sort of moving stuff from the likes of Mick McCarthy even, who is usually moody who said about how he turned them from a sort of ragtag bunch of all right players into a team, changed the way they played, changed the way they sort of interacted with each other just by being a generally good bloke. All I've heard is good stories about him, and Irish football fans have said at the time in the sort of late 80s when he took over, Ireland as a country wasn't in a particularly good place. And I think there was I heard it on Football Weekly. Max Rushton said there's an Irish writer who said Jack Charlton made him realise that things didn't have to be shit. It's sort of stuff like that is where football can just change our mood a little bit. And I've certainly, even though my season's been over with Peterborough, having the football back has cheered me up a bit more than I realised it would, to be honest. And it just, with all the stories about Jack Charlton, it just made me think we ought to just very quickly recognise him as a great player and, from the sounds of it, a great man.
All right, well, on that relatively serious note, we'll take a quick break, I think, just to sort of reset, stretch our legs, get some water, and then we'll come back and talk about the fixtures. Welcome back to Miles Offside Pod, as Chuck would say to start off part 2 always.
Pretty much.
Yep.
Stole my line, mate.
I gotta say, I always wish that you would say welcome back to the Miles Offside Pod, as opposed to just welcome back to Miles Offside Pod.
Yeah, but we don't have the in the name.
No.
It's like the band is Rolling Stones. The band is Eagles.
Arctic Monkeys.
Exactly. Why'd you have to put a the?
I guess.
Tackling the big issues.
I guess it depends if we're using podcast as
topic.
A proper noun or a descriptor there. Is it Miles Offside Podcast with a capital P, or the Miles Offside, capital M, capital O, podcast, lowercase p?
Capitalise fucking all of it. We are the Alpha and the Omega.
All right, very good. Well, welcome back to the or just Miles Offside Podcast.
Christ almighty.
There's plenty of football to talk about. There's 2 rounds of fixtures over the week, so we'll start off with the most important match, obviously the one everyone is talking about, and that is the Mop Derby.
No!
You can't make him.
Can we go back to part 1?
I definitely will. Crystal Palace 2, Chelsea 3, Palace 1.3 on XG to Chelsea's 2.7. So a pretty fair scoreline. Palace slightly overperforming. Goals from Christian Pulisic and Tammy Abraham yet again. That means that Christian Pulisic has scored in every match he's ever played against Crystal Palace. You absolutely love to see
matches.
It. Yep,
two matches.
All of them. That is literally all of them.
Massaging of statistics.
What was it you said last week? Stats without context are very dangerous.
Yeah,
Good point.
Absolutely, yes.
Twisty, turny words.
But yeah, so Pulisic scores in both. Tammy scores in both. Chuck, how are you feeling about the 3-2 loss?
Right. Well, to summarise, I've made this very clear on social media. That I am checked out for this year. Right. I'm done. I have muted Crystal Palace on Twitter. I have unfollowed the Palace account. I have muted the word Hodgson. There is so much toxicity and bullshit. I don't want to focus on that. I want it to be on my terms and to control it. And we said this before this game, and we were talking about how there were loads of goals. And you know what? This game was fun because Chelsea did all they could to not win, and Palace still just couldn't do it. Like, they even let Benteke have a tap in from 3 yards. Just after Tammy Abraham scored. Tammy Abraham, who's done fuck all since Project Restart, had him in my team, put him on my bench, bang, goal. Patrick Van Aanholt hasn't done fuck all, put him on my bench, bang, assist. Football, good vibes, bad vibes, fuck.
Come on, it's got to be nice that Benteke scored.
Yeah, that was nice. His first goal at Selhurst Park in 800 days.
Good Lord.
And I'm just going to read you some headlines to summarise also why I am checked out. Because, like, we had that win against Bournemouth, and obviously 3 games before lockdown, we won. That was great. But then after that, we've just looked so abject. 5 straight defeats, the second fewest goals in the Premier League, ahead of only Norwich, relegated. The fewest home goals in the Premier League, 3 goals in the first half all season, 7 wins since October the 6th. And bear in mind, 3 of those were back-to-back in, February, March, whenever lockdown was. The oldest average age in the Premier League, 0 rotation of players, the least number of minutes given to any academy or young players, and the tactics the exact same every single game. I'm good. I'm out. I will be taking no further questions.
Okay. I should also note here that you do have also the lowest XG in the entire league. Cumulative for the season, so that...
Lowest goals, pretty much, so, that stacks up.
That makes sense.
Context.
So I'm guessing you don't want to talk about Aston Villa 2, Crystal Palace 0?
No. You sent me a message, I was at work at the day, and I had a message from you saying, hey, Chuck, so what's happening? Like, you guys are going to win today? And the match had started, I was like, what? Are we winning? And then I looked and no, I would not like to talk about it.
All right, well, we'll come back to obviously the Chelsea top 4 title race and the Sheffield result later on in the pod, but I will note again that Pulisic did score in both matches against Palace, and that does feel pretty fucking nice, I'm not going to lie.
Sure, good player scores against shit team.
Yeah, pretty much.
Headline.
What is the problem now is because of, like, there's been 2 full rounds of fixtures, right, now since we last recorded, because hectic, and we're recording on Tuesday, and there's games for the next 11 days, 10 days, I don't know, loads.
Yeah, loads of days.
After recording, I wanted to start a thing called Operation Cherry Bomb in FPL, which was basically just transfer in and captain anyone who's playing against Bournemouth. And so I did it with Vardy, and at least he got a goal, even though Bournemouth somehow won 4-1. I have now changed that to Operation Fallen Eagle. So if you have not, you won't know this by the time this comes out, but if you have not captained someone against Palace that plays for Man United, like, you're an idiot. You're an absolute idiot.
I don't know, man. There's another team...
I say that as the person who is winning FPL out of the 3 of us. So...
That's true, both for the season as a whole and the season plus, much to my chagrin. Because I really am trying in the season plus, so I want to fucking catch you. But I don't know, man. I don't know about that, because the team you might want to pick as the one to captain against is Norwich, to move on. Norwich relegated, officially losing 2-1 to Watford and 4-0 against West Ham. Are there worse teams to lose against? You can't play yourselves, and there's no one else.
It wasn't even West Ham. It was just Antonio. That's it.
Right.
They lost to Antonio.
I watched the highlights for that this morning, and he should have probably scored about another 3.
Could have had 6 or 7. No problem.
Antonio there. Oh, missed. Antonio there. Oh, missed. Antonio, goal. Oh, miss. One more goal. Yeah, fuck it, 4.
Their defence is both... Like, Norwich's defence, both their shape and effort is just fucking all over the place.
Yeah, they're done, man. They fucking do not care.
Dead cat bounce now. Dead cat bounce.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Match of the Day brought up the sort of interesting thing of their team, their first 11 was the same as their last championship match, which, I mean, if you're not going to invest you're not going to stay in the Premier League, are you? If you're still putting out exactly the same 11. But I also saw something about that. This has happened for Norwich quicker than they expected, and they sort of planned to go down, and will sort of. It's more like a 5 or 6 year plan, and it's like. Well, yeah, but you're up here now, so you could try and stay, maybe.
Yeah, it just makes no sense. Like, Palace had that. We had, like, a 5-year plan, and, like, it accelerated. We actually, even because the season we got promoted, we were expected to go down and managed to do it. And then we were like, well, fuck it, we're here now. Like, may as well make the most of it.
I don't think Norwich have done that. I think they've gone, oh, no, let's pop back home, just down to the Championship, because that's not an easy division to get out of, is it? Fucking hell.
Like, that's a fucking trapdoor. Anyone saying, oh, I'd just rather get relegated to the Championship so that we can reset. Bullshit. Look at Sunderland, Stoke, Hull,
yeah,
Cardiff.
Exactly.
All these teams that have gone down recently. You don't want that.
Leeds are still trying to come back up.
It's looking like they are. They should.
Yes.
Question mark. Unless they do a proper Stimson level bottle job. Like.
Fucking hell.
But Norwich getting relegated takes at least one bad thing off of Palace, that we are no longer joint for the most relegated teams from the Premier League anymore. Norwich have that record all to themselves 5 times. Thank you very much, Delia Smith.
Yep. And on the flip side of the relegation conversation was Watford having 2 big wins this week, beating Newcastle and Norwich, bringing their relegation odds down to 20%. So they did put a little gap between themselves and the actual relegation spots. Bournemouth are currently on 31, Watford and West Ham are on 34. So that is kind of opening up a little bit of a gap. But also they are just a better team, so the 20% kind of reflects that. And I think they have an easier fixture.
Well, the big game for the W teams is that they play each other 16th and 17th now. So one win kind of saves one of those teams.
Yeah.
So both should be going for it. So that's quite big. And then, there's still a bit of a cushion there with, Bournemouth need to get a win fast to get out of it.
Bournemouth are in trouble. Bournemouth, despite their big win against Leicester, which we'll come back to for the context of the top 4 race, Bournemouth's big win against Leicester put them, they're still at 85% to go down despite that.
Oof.
Like, that is not, they're just a shit team. So, like,
yeah, I called it years ago.
Well, yeah, people need to be looking at how Eddie Howe has managed to keep them in the Premier League this long. I mean, it's a terrible, terrible squad, really. They've just not got any depth at all. I mean, it's unbelievable that, like you say, we'll get to it, but unbelievable that they managed to turn Leicester over when they lost Ake, who's been one of their only half-decent players this season.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Absolutely. Is Eddie Howe the one that uses a ton of stats? Is he the XG guy? I never remember. There's one manager that, like,
I think he's fairly forward-thinking on that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I think that would explain part of, like, how you keep a shitty team up, is you got to get every tiny little edge. Like, that's really the philosophy of Moneyball, if you watch the movie or read the book, is, like, it's not about...
Good film.
Great film. Yeah, Brad Pitt, probably another guy with a very beautiful cock.
Oh, God.
Well, then.
Just saying, aesthetically probably very well formed, like a Greek statue.
Okay, yep.
I don't want to see it. I'm just saying it probably is really nice.
You don't not want to see it.
The whole thing about Moneyball is like getting little edges and overperforming in little ways, but in so many places that it adds up. So, all right. Well, on
the Bournemouth are going down.
Yeah. Let's take it to one other kind of one-off amusing story. Liverpool won, Burnley won. Cue the jingle.
Oh, they're better than they ought to be.
Burnley of the week.
A good old-fashioned Burnley of the week from Burnley here. Liverpool dropped points at home for the first time since, hold on, let me check this, January 2019.
Ooh, who did they drop points to then, Oscar?
Leicester 1-1.
Oh, I thought that was Palace.
No, Palace was the last win, I think, at Anfield, right?
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Yeah, but they drew with Leicester in January 2019.
Yeah.
So,
which means that Liverpool don't break the record for always winning at home, which was set in like 1897 by Sunderland? Question mark.
Sunderland.
So, a win for Sunderland.
Yeah, I'm sure that's
where they get them.
I did say Burnley of the week, so let me just give the actual XG here. Liverpool 2.2, scoring 1, so less than half. And Burnley 0.4, scoring 1, so more than double.
Oh, wow. Okay.
If Burnley let Sean Dyche leave, because there's been mad beef and all kinds of this stuff because he's already got them to Europe once. He's never really been backed. He keeps saying, like, you need to spend money, you need to help me, blah, 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 blah. If he leaves that club, or they let him leave, that is, like, the biggest fuck-up ever. Like, the job he's done, like, I don't care if, like, we go on about, you know, the Burnley of the week, and it does kind of feed into what you said, Oscar, about the Moneyball thing, is that he must know exactly kind of those kind of things, whether it's deliberate or whether it's just implicit in his thinking and his way of doing things. Like, they're tied, Nick Pope is tied with Edison for the Golden Glove at the minute. They haven't lost, I don't think. They've lost like one game in 16 or something ridiculous like that. Like, the job he's done there over years and years and years with no money and those players is incredible. And if they let him leave, as much as we joke about Burnley and how shit they are and stuff, they will fully deserve just to be relegated and the shittest team ever. And I will happily take him at Palace.
I could definitely see that. Because your best guy was Pulis, right? Over the last, like...
I'd say with the... Yeah, I don't like Tony Pulis because of like all the other stuff that happened, and you know he got sued by the club for God's sake, and then had to pay us back loads of money. But I would say with the players at hand, Tony Pulis probably did the best job for Palace.
Yeah, I've always stand Tony Pulis because he gets really shitty teams and gets them to overperform by having good tactics. Everyone hates him for being so negative, and yeah, he is really kind of boring to watch. But like, I also think he deserves admiration for consistently getting the absolute most out of teams. You could see that happening again at Palace. That wouldn't surprise me. Like, Burnley have done that, so
yeah. But like, that's what we were good at for so long. But now it's just like the squad age and all those kind of things are catching up. And we've said before, like in the Premier League, you know, in fact, Tony Pulis and Stoke is the perfect example. If you don't refresh and you don't get back and get to do that, like you can be in the Premier League for a few years, but then when the fall happens, like it happens fast.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Speaking of the fall, that's a tenuous transition at best, but just briefly, I don't actually want to talk about this match because there's nothing interesting about them right now other than that they're just the best team in England, but Man City 5, Brighton 0. Chuck, I'm sure you were just happy to see Brighton lose 5-0, so I'll give you a chance to gloat about that.
Ha 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 ha.
All right, very good. And Jesus actually scoring some goals. Raheem Sterling scoring the funniest accidental goal.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, wait, I remember now. Yes, I really do want to laugh at this.
There he is.
He kicked it, the ball went up, and he fell, and it landed on his head, and it went through Matt Ryan's legs, and they couldn't keep it out. And oh my God, he was like, did I score? I don't know.
Yeah, even he stood up and was like, you guys.
You shucks. He came out before that and said he was really going for the golden boot, which is mad, and then just like gets a hat-trick. He is still 6 behind Vardy. Like, Vardy's in the lead with 23 still this season, but you never know.
Gotta love the confidence.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing Bournemouth next, and he loves playing Bournemouth.
Why fucking not?
And Leicester have a horrible fixture and horrible form.
And oh my God, Man City have Man City have Bournemouth, Watford, and Norwich for the next 3 games.
Yes, I told you to triple up on City last week.
That's why you have to triple up. Yeah.
We told you this, and you were like, nah. Me and Ian were like, dude, look at the, like, I got all your info, man. I've been doing spreadsheets. Like, trust me, I'm actually putting in effort, and I know numbers. Like, yeah. Speaking of, me and Ian both got Jesus in. Although I think, did you get him in time for the goals? Because I brought him in after.
No, I've done it this week. So
yeah, same. He's finally scoring, so that could be a thing.
I mean, the thing is, he's got to start playing a bit more like a number 9, like, because he doesn't need to drift wide and get the ball. He doesn't need the Man City is set for players who can create. He doesn't need to do that.
That's why Aguero's so good, because he's just always there and just puts it in. Whereas, yeah, Jesus wants to help and contribute and go out wide, but then like they've got enough players that do that. Like
you
Bernardo
score as many
Silva.
tap-ins as you want, mate. You should do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because sometimes, like we've gone on about before, and the amount of XG per 90 he was generating was off the charts because he was getting in those positions for the last 15 minutes of games in one of the most creative teams. But sometimes that can just be because you're a bit fucking wasteful. Like, he's very frustrating to watch. Almost like Salah can be quite frustrating to watch and own sometimes because, you'll watch a game and he'll score 1, but you'll see him spurn like 6, 7 chances and you're like, for consistency, like, do I feel that comfortable with someone like that? And that's very much what Jesus is like. And we've said, like, is he actually good enough for City? Does he need to make sure he adapts his game so he just sits in the box and then just like taps in all the time, because that's what they did against who was it? Against Newcastle. They just did the classic play to the byline, cut it back, near the penalty spot, bang, goal. Their first 2 goals were carbon copies of each other, and they're fantastic at that. And he just needs to be the guy that either allows that space or is that player.
Absolutely. And I think, like, he's not even just per 90. I just did this, like, right now as you were talking, and if you sort by total XG for the season, he's in second. He has 19.1 XG. He's only scored 12. It is by far the biggest difference between XG and actual goals scored. He has generated as much total XG as Mohamed Salah, who is actually on his 19 goals. Salah 19.4, scoring 19. Jesus 19.1, scoring 12. The other big outlier there is Roberto Firmino, generating 16, only scoring 8.
Now we know from Ian's advice, don't get Firmino.
Don't get Firmino, and maybe get Jesus if he's actually putting away his chances now. Like, who knows? So let's move on from that to... I think I'll save the top 4 race for last, kind of take all of those all at once as one sort of thread. But we should briefly mention the North London Derby, LOL. That was great. Tottenham 2, Arsenal 1, Tottenham 1.8 on XG to Arsenal's 0.7, so exactly lining up if you round to the nearest whole numbers.
I'm annoyed about this because I don't know who to blame. Because who is deciding that Tierney marks Alderweireld? Like... Is that David Luiz not taking responsibility on the field? Is that
Probably.
some sort of ridiculous defensive coaching decision?
Nah, it's David Luiz.
It's Derek Good. Okay, fine. I'll blame him then. Lovely.
I didn't see it. I didn't see the game. I've just seen what the score was now. But I'm like 97% sure it's probably David Luiz's fault. Hashtag new contract.
This one was interesting to me because for whatever fucking reason, like 90% of my timeline is either Tottenham or Arsenal fans. I don't know how this happened. What have I done
It's
wrong?
because you're on Twitter, that's why.
Yeah, sure. And it was really fascinating watching my timeline while watching this match because the Tottenham fans were watching one match and the Arsenal fans were watching a completely different match. Arsenal fans, all of them were like, oh, fuck Jose, we got robbed. Adam P was saying this, I'm going to put him on blast. And then you look at the numbers and you're like, the numbers agree with the Tottenham fans and also the neutrals, and Arsenal fans are like, nah, we were better, we got robbed, blah, 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 blah. It's like, nah, man, you got outplayed, like, straight up. Like, this was a classic Mourinho masterclass. Like, he controlled the game, didn't concede chances until about a half hour left. He opened up a little bit, because he wants the first 60 to be nothing. And then he wants to win the last 30. That's kind of Mourinho's thing.
Weren't they playing like 4-4-2 and just shut things down, basically? And we're almost playing long ball sometimes to sort of just hit Son and Kane up the top all the time. And it was working. Arsenal were getting frustrated. And when Arsenal get frustrated, they lose their fucking heads. And it happened again.
Absolutely.
Speaking of Tottenham, Patreon and friend of the podcast, Mr. Jeff Pedder, he got in touch and regarding his thoughts on Jose Mourinho.
I mean, what is Kane meant to do in this team? I mean, fuck me. Spurs are dog shit. Absolute steaming pile of wank. We've been infected by this dinosaur with his miserable face and his non-existent tactics. Fuck him.
And he even gets a bleep in there. Good on you, Jeff.
Well played, Jeff.
So, Jeff, but you got the win now. So,
did they win?
That was Mourinho's best match as Tottenham manager. Like, it was a fully deserved win in their biggest match of the season because they don't have anything else to play for.
Please get in touch, Jeff, and see if his one win now against Arsenal completely redeems all those things.
Yeah,
and you're fine with, in your own words, the dinosaur.
Make it clear that he said that after they drew with Bournemouth 0-0. That was a direct result of the North London derby.
Can we go back to one thing he said there?
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure he dislikes me strongly, despite being a Patreon of the pod. How he said, what is Kane meant to do in this team? Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Who still thinks Kane is good? I guess Jeff Pedder. Love you, Jeff. Thank you for being a supporter of the podcast. But buddy, come on, man. Like, Kane is the problem. It's not that the team is failing him. It's that he's just not good. Sorry, bud. I don't know how to break it.
Ran out of ways to say it.
Like, do we need to stage an intervention? We care about him, right? He's our friend at Patreon. So, like, do we need to sit him down with all of the other Patreons and be like, listen, Jeff, enough is enough, bud. Like, this is a real problem now.
What, weed him off of Kane?
What's with English people being so fucking desperate for Kane to be resurgent, for Kane to be back?
Because he was really good.
He was so good for a couple of seasons.
He was so good, that's it. It's the rose-tinted glasses and
Yes,
the
any
memories.
England player. I mean, you know, I'm really looking forward to us absolutely ruining fucking Greenwood.
And Kane did have a really good match recently. I forget which one it was, but I did say to Jeff, like, you know, I fucking give you shit about Kane a lot, but like he had a good match. He'll have good matches sometimes, but like every time it happens, it feels like the commentators and not just Tottenham fans, but like all of Twitter is like, Kane's back, baby. Let's do
Because
it.
this is what we do, isn't it? We were all incredibly worried when he got injured because he might not make the Euros. And it's just that's what we do. We put all of it on one person and we forget that anyone else exists. That's what we do.
All right, very good. So Kane is the new Wayne Rooney. That's what I'm hearing.
God. Well, I think we've gone beyond that.
Who was the new Michael Owen?
Yeah.
Oh, God. That's when I came in, was when everyone was mad about Michael Owen not being good anymore. So that's a throwback to me.
Which is exactly what happened. He got loads of injuries and then just...
So that's what they need to do. They need to get Kane on a, like, when his injuries really break him down, they need to get him on a, like, pay-by-game basis, and then they'll never owe him any money.
Michael Owen was the new Shearer, who got fucked up with loads of injuries.
Sure, but Shearer was good for a long time, as opposed to like Owen and Kane, who had like 1 or 2 elite seasons, and then that's it. Like, I wonder what the like legend of Harry Kane is going to be in 20 years. Right now, everyone just wants him to go back to being great, so they're all trying to push the narrative that he's still elite, he's still good, other than the three of us, and like not English people.
I love that you're putting us as some brave, shining knights.
Yeah, absolutely. We speak truth to power, Ian. This is what we do.
The power.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on then, as much as I've tried to avoid it, to the top 4 race and the recent results. Sheffield 3.
Top 4 stumble.
Yep, sure. Chelsea 3.
Copyright. TM.
Sheffield United... nope, sorry, I wish. Sheffield United 3, Chelsea 0. Sheffield 2.0 on XG to Chelsea's 1.1. So, a deserved win. Not quite a 3-0 scoreline, but like, we weren't good. We were bad. I don't know what to tell you.
Remember when we laughed about how simple it was that you just have to score one more than the opposition?
Yeah, well, what do I tell you? 4-3. We always concede 3, so it's just a matter of can we score 4 or not. Sheffield were good, man. They genuinely stopped us from doing what we wanted to do.
Yeah, fucking wasn't defending. It's never defending.
There is a template against Chelsea, and I really hope that this doesn't just become like a Lampard thing as opposed to a personnel thing, because it could honestly be either. I think the corner kicks problem and the set piece problem is fully a Lampard thing. He needs to sort that shit out. Maybe Chelsea need to hire someone who's good at that specifically to just be like the set piece coach, because that's kind of where the future is anyway. Like, Liverpool has someone who's just their throw-in coach. Like, he just does throw-ins for them. So, like, let's fucking hire someone. Frank doesn't need to be good at every single thing. It's not 1965. Have a team of people running your team. Like, what the fuck are you doing? So let's get someone in who can actually help us defend set pieces and corners. And hopefully, you know, Kaylee likes to joke that he's a football pervert, which just means like someone who's like, fuck defense, I just want to have fun and score, aka the Bundesliga. Like, Frank would be a great manager in the Bundesliga. I hope we buy some defenders, because that was dog shit. That was absolute dog shit. And they take turns being the one that sucks. It's like Rudiger gets dropped, Christensen comes in and has a bad game. Christensen gets dropped, Zuma comes in and has a bad game. It's like, no, what happened to Tomori? He's not even like, I haven't heard from him in months. But like, give him a fucking chance, unless he's injured. I genuinely don't know. I don't think he is. Because like, no one's doing a good job. And Frank came out afterwards. I don't know if you guys saw his post-match press conference interview.
Yeah.
But he was like, I'm not going to forget this performance. Yeah, I learned a lot about some of these players today.
I've learned some things about my players that I'm not going to forget.
Yeah, like, exactly. Whoa. And I'm like, ooh.
And he won't, because he's a fucking genius. Yeah. He won't forget.
I do wonder who he specifically meant, because there was a lot of blame to go around that day, and I hope that it's not like, oh shit, Christian Pulisic didn't create enough, or Jorginho didn't do whatever he needed to do, because Jorginho was actually pretty good, I thought. I hope that he meant like Kepa.
I think if it took him this long to learn anything about Kepa, he's not that intelligent.
I know. Just pay his wages. Just pay his wages to let him go. The reason no one wants him is because he's on crazy wages. So like all the time, every time we offer him on loan to someone, they're like, yeah, but we can't afford that. Can you pay half of the wages? And Chelsea's like, why are we going to pay half the wages for someone to be gone? And I'm like, no, don't think of it that way. Think of it as saving half of the
Half his
wages to not have him playing for us.
Think about saving the money you get for the Champions League. Weigh up that cost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, how many minutes does it have to be for Roman Abramovich to be able to pay Kepa's wages? Is it 90 minutes or is it like
4?
Yeah, exactly. So
On
anyway.
the record or on the books or off the books?
Yeah, off the books.
Yeah.
I want to get him off the books. I want to get him off Chelsea's books, please, as quick as possible.
Is there any truth to the rumour that Frank made Tammy cry in the dressing room saying he was a championship striker?
Whoa! Whoa! Whoa!
I hadn't heard that story at all. Where did you hear that?
Okay,
I genuinely hadn't.
I saw it on a couple of places on Twitter. You keep talking and I'll see if I can substantiate it.
I like that. I mean, I don't like it, but I like that. That side of Frank, like, fuck.
He's getting feisty, man. He's getting, like,
Scathing.
for real feisty.
Probably because he's fed up with the shit defenders being shit.
Yeah.
He's like, come on, we're scoring all these goals, and you keep letting them in.
But, as usual, as we have seen all season, Chelsea have only won 7 of their last 17 games, and we've still been in the top 4 the entire time since October. Like, we haven't dropped out of the top 4 since October. We could have if United had won and Leicester had gotten results, and instead we're still in 3rd place somehow. Because Man United drawing 2-2 against Southampton, and Leicester 1-1 against Arsenal, who have been terrible, except for how they were good for 2 games. But, like, other than that, Arsenal have not been good.
It is funny. It's like when was it when Ole took over before and United were in 5th, and then they won like 7 games in a row and they were still in 5th. It's kind of like now that they've won all these games, they've been incredible since the restart, and they're still in 5th.
Yeah. I mean, it really has been like... I saw a fascinating study that has nothing to do with soccer, but just came to my mind, so I'm going to say it. A few years ago that someone did an experiment where they built like almost a miniature highway. So it wasn't a NASCAR track, it was like a 3-lane highway, but it was a giant loop with like walls so you couldn't see the rest of the loop and stuff. And then they just put a bunch of cars on there and they spaced out the cars perfectly evenly around the perimeter of the loop. And we're like, okay, everyone drive exactly 50 miles an hour for, 20 minutes or whatever, however long they did the experiment. And if everyone follows the directions correctly, we should still be fully spaced out at the end of the 20 minutes or the hour or however long they were driving for. And within like 5 fucking minutes, there was everyone on one half of the track and no one on the other half. They naturally created traffic despite having explicit instructions to just go 50 miles an hour. And the idea being that humans are social animals and like herding and there's safety in numbers. And so like anytime you put a group of people, they're naturally going to cluster. And it feels like that's what the Premier League teams are doing because, like, every time Chelsea dropped points, United dropped points, and Leicester dropped points. And every time, and Tottenham, when they were in the conversation. Remember when Tottenham were in the conversation for like 5 minutes?
Yeah. Yeah, it was 5 minutes, yeah.
Yeah. Teams win and everyone wins, everyone loses, everyone loses. And it's just like that middle block hasn't moved at all.
It is funny you say about like losing points because if we go back 5 game weeks, the results for the 3 teams, win, win, draw, all get points. The next game week, loss, loss, win. Okay, so one team gets points. The next week, win, win, win. The next week, win, draw, win. The next week, loss, loss, draw. You are pretty much like matching each other.
Absolutely. Chelsea have been at 70 to 80% to make the Champions League since like January. And that's including teams moving up, City losing their spot and then getting it back. Like we went up to 90 for a little while, but like we're at 76. United are at 70 and Leicester are at 49. And the big thing to me is not only do we have the 1-point lead, the reason Chelsea's percentage is the highest one of those teams, even though we haven't been the hottest team and United have been, is because United and Leicester play each other on the last day. So it is physically impossible for both of those teams to take full points. And us with a 1-point cushion plus not playing either of them, we can just, like, all we need basically is 6 points from the last 3. And that's assuming that Leicester and United win their other two matches before going into their last day of the season with each other. Like, it really is much more likely for Chelsea to make it at this point. Those 2 results, despite us losing, were huge. And Leicester playing United on the last day, it feels like Chelsea are probably, I don't want to jinx it, but probably going to be in. And Leicester United are playing each other on the last day of the season for that Champions League spot. That's very exciting.
I have not been able to substantiate the Tammy Abraham rumour. The tweet I saw has since been deleted.
What you're saying is we started the rumour?
I can only find it on Google Cache. It's since been deleted. So, but Tammy did give an interview slightly questioning Frank's tactics. So perhaps there's some truth to not everything being quite rosy.
Well, you can't play Palace every week, so he's not,
Yeah. Anyway, thought I'd better say that.
You can if you support Palace. We play ourselves every fucking week.
So how are you guys feeling about the top four? Who do you think it's going to end up? Let's kind of wrap up the fixtures conversation there.
Yeah, Chelsea United.
Yeah, I agree. I think Leicester seem to just be completely shit in the bed. So I think Man United look good. I mean, Southampton were good.
Southampton
good value
can't
for their
finish
point.
in the top four.
No, I know that. I'm talking
four, mate.
But they played Manchester United and they were good value for their point. But I think generally Man United have looked great. But I think it's a bit of a worry that Southampton did well and Bruno Fernandes looked tired. If they're genuinely going to be that much of a one-man team, they might need to. Well, there's only 3 games left. It's not like they can rest.
They can't afford to rotate.
For many of them, but I mean,
and there's the FA Cup
looked...
this weekend. Cup's this weekend, and it's United, Chelsea, and City, Arsenal.
Well, we're having the same thing at Chelsea. Like, do you rotate out Pulisic and Willian because they've had so many minutes and they did look kind of tired against Sheffield, or do you leave them in because like you have to take points and it's Norwich, so like you don't want to play in the B squad against Norwich and then accidentally drop points. Like, you can't afford. You have to take those points. We played Liverpool and Wolves in our other 2 matches, and Wolves haven't been great, but they're still a pretty good team. Wolves are 5th on XG, unexpected points, I mean. It is nice as the season starts to wrap up that the table converges to the XG table, as it should, because, like, over sample size. Not in City's case, because City are 10 points ahead of Liverpool unexpected.
Yeah.
But Chelsea and United are 3 and 4 unexpected, and they're probably going to end up the season at 3 and 4. There's a decent sized drop in 6 expected points from there to Wolves, and then another 4 to Leicester. Leicester are the 6th best and 10 expected points behind United and Chelsea, who are at 66 and 65. So it is nice for Leicester to have been fucking up there for all season. People talking about like, oh, they're the last hope for a title race. They were over City at one point. And now they're falling out of the top 4, falling to where they belong on the expected points, because that's what happens over sample size. Yay!
Yay, stats. Yeah, I think you'll be fine with Man United, yeah.
Excellent. All right, well, that's enough fixtures, which means it is time to talk about everyone's favorite segment. We brought back rapid fire news. We're bringing back another one. It is time for what, Chuck?
It's the Predictor League! League of predictions that we forgot about, cause it's quite a lot of admin, and the games have been coming too thick and fast for me to bother to open the spreadsheet and adjust the numbers, so it took a Patreon request from Mr. Sam Van Danby for me to update the Predictor League, where people made predictions at the start of the season, and we see how good they are at doing it by getting the lowest score. Yeah, Predictor League.
All in one breath. It's like Jeff Buckley's Hallelujah, isn't it?
Very good.
Yeah, if you didn't get it from the song, the Predictor League at the start of the
Explain what the
season.
Predictor League is. For some reason, that song didn't explain it.
Some people gave us, literally some people, where they thought teams would finish at the end of the season, and I work out differences and shit. Currently, at the bottom, probably our favourite person, Johnny Worthington, king of the Patreons. Yeah, sorry, mate, down there at the bottom. Top, first. Should I just do first? I may as well.
Yeah.
It's bloody worst to first, Oscar Puente.
Hey!
After challenging himself to nearly being over 100 points away last year, he is at 60. I'm sure the final score finished last year like 24 away, so it just shows how wild
it's
this
been a
year
weird
is.
season.
And it's funny, it's almost like he knew to ask for it, because in joint second is Sam Danby with Joe Bloom, tied at 64.
Ooh.
Wow.
So Sam entered the league earlier as well. So if things carry on like this, then Sam Danby wins literally insert prize here later.
It's 50 quid, wasn't it?
50 quid for a football team or his choice, or if we can't be bothered to buy the voucher, we'll just send in £51.
51. Yeah, sorry, forgot.
Predictor League. Yay! There's a reason we don't do it every week. It's very niche, like this podcast.
Well, and it's not fun to just hear me winning all the time, every week. Always the best. Oh, Oscar's the best. Oscar's the smartest. Oh, it just gets tiring, honestly, to have to listen to that every week.
Yeah, but it's nice that over the 2 years there is like at least one thing you can win.
It would be quite good if, because I won it last year, if Oscar wins it this year, it does sort of, put us in a position of some sort of expertise, doesn't it?
Well, two of us at least.
Well, yeah.
Well, that moves us on nicely to the thing that I win.
We're not talking about FPL. No,
we're talking about FPL, guys, aren't we? Oh,
Yes.
where's Chuck? 2,088 points in the top 90,000, still clawing on. Ahead of the Miles Offside podcast community team by 15 points on 2,073. And ahead of Ian Stimpson, 2,056 points. 32 points ahead of you. And way down on 1,894. A full 190-some points behind me, because I can't be able to work it out.
Exactly the points a backup keeper would have got you.
Yeah, Ian, you need to average like 11 points a week to beat me now. More than me.
That's tough over 3 weeks. I think I'm going to need to nail a captain choice. I mean, and I'm going against you because I'm going Pulisic. Well, I think so. I'm going to see if there's early team news. If he's definitely in tonight, which is obviously we're recording on Tuesday, as you said, then he's definitely my captain. Because if someone's starting with rotation watch over at City, I'll take a starter. So if I hear that he's starting,
well, and against Norwich too,
yeah, exactly. I mean, and I know you'll go for a different captain. Who are you captaining then, Chuck? Against Palace?
At the moment, I have Martial as captain against Palace because he always does well against us. He's a very fast player. Our defence is old and slow, so yeah, I like that.
Fair enough.
He'll probably win a penalty. Either Fernandes or Rashford will take it, and I own them. So, triple up on Man United, guys. Get an armband on them.
Triple up on both Manchester teams, and double up on Chelsea.
Well, now this is going to be the question, because I've got my team open here, and I have Vardy and Rashford and Dwight Gale on my bench, which was a really good pick. But let's not talk about my bench and the fact that in 3 weeks it's earned over 80 points.
Squad depth.
My bench scores have been 22, 26 and 28 for the last 3 game weeks, and I'm still beating you shit munchers.
Yeah, okay, fair enough, but my word, that is, I don't know whether to be impressed or outraged.
Well, this is it. I'm giving you all the chances you can. I can, Spursy. But should I do Vardy against Sheffield United? Should I get him out for Jesus?
Is it for free?
It's for free.
Do it.
Do it,
Yeah?
absolutely, yeah.
Okay, 1 second.
Oh, hello, live.
Transfers. Jamie Vardy.
While you're doing that, I'll take a moment
I'm
for my team.
still going to narrate it underneath. So you can talk. But
This is his
I'll still
MO.
be here.
I wildcarded
Players.
and got 83 and 33, so we talked about that the week after. As the
City.
original plan, I bench boosted in 34. 95 points on my bench
Gabriel
boost.
Jesus.
Nice.
Add
So-
player. Scroll up. Make
Pretty happy.
transfers. Confirm Do you want to play your free hit? No.
Still got your free hit?
Still got my free hit, mate. There we go.
fucking hell.
Jesus in.
Fucking hell.
Save that for 38, because then you
Yeah.
don't want Man United players that week, right? So you don't have to worry about transferring them out.
Yeah, well, I've been looking at it because you kind of, like, even though you don't really need to plan a free hit, obviously, but, I mean, I've got Man City, but I don't have any Liverpool players, but Newcastle always do something on the last game of the season. Liverpool have fucked up on the last game of the season before. So
Who's
I don't
playing
know.
Spurs on the last day of the season? Because Spurs are always a fucking joke on the last day of the season.
Yeah, I'm not getting Palace in.
Oh, Palace.
right.
Oh. Well, that's a good fixture for you guys, though. That's a nice one to end on. I'm captaining Willian this week. Neither of you asked, but fuck you guys. I'm still going to participate in this conversation.
That's cool. That makes sense against
I
Norwich.
thought we were still listening to Chuck do his transfer.
No.
No, I've done that. I pressed
Oh, right,
confirm.
okay,
done.
sorry.
Yeah.
I'm still leaving the
That's
armband
done.
on Martial.
Sorry,
I am
that's
trying
good.
to catch Chuck in the season plus. Because again,
Made
I
up
did not take
competition.
most of the season seriously, but I am taking the season plus seriously. I'm currently 16 points behind you, Chuck, and like 32 points ahead of Ian.
Oh, yeah, I'm 50 points ahead. Ian's done. Ian's
Ian's
busted
done
flush.
with the season plus.
He got in
Ian
his own
has
head.
fucked it. But since you don't have Willian, Chuck, Willian is probably who I'm going to captain to try to make up a little bit of the extra points there.
I'm just going to play my own game. You boys fuck about and decide what you're going to do to try and beat me.
Differentials.
Although if you're not captaining Pulisic, maybe I will captain Pulisic. Because I would obviously much more enjoy to have it on him than Willian. Although Willian's on pens. Unclear. We'll see. Everyone else knows what already happened in that match, so hopefully Willian or
exactly,
Pulisic scored
we're going to sound very stupid.
What are we doing with the pod team this week? Did we already make our transfer?
Yeah, we took a hit. And we did Robertson and Jimenez for Jesus and Laporte.
Laporte?
Mm.
We went with City defence.
Mm.
Okay.
That was Ian's suggestion.
I didn't put forward a suggestion because I've been busy.
And I said to roll it because I had my eyes on a double move for next week.
Uh-huh.
And also, I don't want to keep taking points hits because that's 2 weeks in a row that the pod team is taking points hits.
Ian, you won one. Well done.
Yeah,
something,
exactly.
and that makes sense.
Oh, that's right. It's not just officially my team.
No,
since
Jesus is the reason for the season.
So get ready for a fucking terrible week.
Yeah. Fixtures then. So Chelsea play Norwich tonight. And then we move on to Wednesday is Burnley Wolves, Man City Bournemouth, Newcastle Spurs, Arsenal Liverpool, Everton Villa, Leicester Sheffield, Palace Man United, Southampton Brighton, and the W Derby on Friday. We do have Saturday, Sunday. There's a limited games, but like we said before, FA Cup. They're all Premier League teams playing there.
Oh yeah, it leads to one of those like sort of slightly extended 6-day game week type things, doesn't it? Yeah.
And the good thing is that by the time roughly we record again, Palace probably would have lost twice again. So
you don't care though.
But it just kind of at least it compartments it into just one thing. Chelsea would have played twice. Maybe Chelsea have lost twice, and then they'd be about to play Liverpool.
For me, I don't have an eye on any of those fixtures as much as the FA. Obviously, Chelsea-Norwich, but that already happened for the listeners. But Chelsea-Man United on the weekend in the FA Cup semi-final is very exciting, given I talked about this a while ago when we got the draw, but they did the double on us. It's just a good measuring stick to see where we're at. I hope that we are able to do better than them and win. But we'll see. That should be a good one, though. That's going to be like, those two teams are both going to go at each other. There's a real little rivalry kind of building up again that we haven't seen in a long time between those two, so that's nice.
Yeah, and obviously Man City are already in the final, so... Because Arsenal...
Scenes when it's Chelsea-Arsenal again. Chelsea-Arsenal have combined, like, more than half of the last 15 FA Cups? Or 16 FA Cups?
And probably most of the rest are Man City and Man United.
Yeah,
and then you can, throw a Wigan in there.
Why not chuck a Wigan in there?
Chuck in a Wigan! Football! Yay! All right then, well that kind of wraps us up for this week. A little two-parter for you there, guys. So, thanks. Enjoy it. May you get all your arrows be green, as I think Ian says on his Patreon. And he also says, hey there, sports fans. That's worth the admission alone.
Exactly.
You are welcome to join us still on our Patreon, patreon.com/milesoffsidepod, for free for the rest of the month.
It'll be free until next season now.
Oh yeah, it will.
Yeah.
Join us.
Freebies.
Come on board. See us on the Twitters at milesoffsidepod. Follow us individually if you want, but if you tweet me about Crystal Palace, literally won't see it. Muted it for 30 days. Thanks a lot for recording. Thanks, Oscar.
Yep, thank you. Oh, speaking of Patreon, actually, I should say, the Avengers 11 soccer team pod special with me and my wife Emily talking for an hour, taking it way, way too seriously as far as what the best 11.
Shocked.
Have you guys listened to that one yet?
20 fucking minutes of, oh, well, you can't have that. Oh, you can have that. Oh, you can't. Like, what do we allow heroes? Just villains? No villains. Villains that have come good? Can they use their powers? Well, no, they can't use their hands. Obviously, they can't use their hands. Oh, Spider-Man on the wing? What wing? Like, that matters.
I can't wait.
That was my favorite. When she goes, which wing? I was like, left wing, I guess? It's Spider-Man, who cares?
You'd like to think that superheroes are probably two-footed.
Yeah. I hope so.
You know.
At the very least.
Check that out on the Patreon if you guys want.
And thanks, Ian, for editing this shambles down.
No worries.
As ever. And being here on time for once.
Thanks. For once. I do one time. One time I turn up late. Fucking hell.
That's all it takes. And thank you all for listening. Take care and bye-bye.
Miles Offside is a Nate Whittam production.